There we go. I'm Jeff Lyons. This is the 14First Alert Weather Show at 9. Thanks for joining tonight. We have rain on the way and some thunderstorms possible by tomorrow morning. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to check out the radar here. I am looking at your comments on the 14 News Facebook page, so if you have something you'd like for me to talk about, put it in there and we'll touch on that a little later on. We have a warm evening out there again. Temperatures still in the mid-70s. And it has been very humid, kind of priming the atmosphere for some showers as we get into the overnight hours. We have rain for that morning commute tomorrow and some thunderstorms possible. Maybe a little heavy rain. Thunderstorm risk, a severe thunderstorm risk is very low for tomorrow morning. On Saturday, maybe a more substantial chance of some stronger storms. I think really about the worst we will get overnight, and tomorrow morning maybe a couple of storms with some small hail or gusty winds. Right now the tri-state is clear. We did have some showers and thunderstorms up over Wayne County earlier, but the real action is just to our west here in Missouri. This is a line of storms that has weakened as it has moved to the east. We have one severe thunderstorm warning here in central Missouri out to the west of Cape Girardeau. This will eventually overspread the tri-state very late tonight. More accurately, like between, let's say, 3 a.m. and about 9 a.m. And that's why we've got that chance for rain in the forecast. So you see those showers coming across early and then kind of consolidating here and moving into the metro area, the Evansville metro area, between about 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. So that'll be during the commute. It'll likely be a wet one for most, and there will be rumbles of thunder and maybe a storm or two that produces some hail. And then in the afternoon, we might see a couple rekindle over western Kentucky. Otherwise, the sun breaks out and we will get that temperature back to around 75 to 80 degrees, not quite as warm as today. The storm risk for tomorrow, as I mentioned, very low. We're at a marginal or 1 on a scale of 5 for the tri-state, so we're not too concerned about severe weather in the morning. Our temperatures really up there in the mid-70s now, and over the next 7 days we have one more bout of near record highs. That will occur on Friday. Saturday, with the cold front coming through, rain and thunderstorms in the morning into the early afternoon. Then the cold air folds in here, and that will push our temperature down to 63 for the high on Sunday after a morning low of 42. Monday starts off cold as well and then warms during the afternoon. You see the GFS model here. Actually, all the models are depicting now rain moving in during the first half of the day Saturday, so between midnight and noon. And then it moves out and we get dry, sunny again, and more seasonable temperatures right around 60 to 65 degrees. Maybe a little more rain coming up toward the middle of next week, at least by the GFS. Our maximum wind gust today got up to 38 miles per hour at Evansville Regional. We had wind gusts of 20 or greater over most of the region during the day. And this is all around that high pressure air basically rushing up in advance of the cold front. I already told you it's 75 degrees out there. We hit 84 this afternoon, so we were 2 degrees shy of setting a record. Our temperature change versus last night were a little bit cooler, not much. And the degrees from normal, this morning we were 22, warmer than the normal low, and 16 warmer than the normal high. We've not added any rain to the calendar here this week, and we are eagerly anticipating rain in the morning, just so we have something to talk about, right? We are, for the year, almost 5 inches in the hole now for rain, and for the month, we've only received about a fourth of the rainfall that we typically would have. On the bigger picture, the scene out to our west is actually improving. I see a new tornado warning there. Again, this is way out of our viewing area, but it is in Missouri, so we'll give you a little close-up view of that and kind of see what's up with that particular cell. These are off to the south and west of St. Louis, and if we just look at, we'll look at reflectivity here. I think we can pick those, yeah, we can pick those up pretty well off of the St. Louis radar. And zooming in here just a little bit, of course the thing we're looking for with a tornado will be a couplet, a velocity couplet, and we'll see if we can detect one of those. You know, we haven't done a lot of this here in the tri-state, fortunately, but it would likely be in this region down here. We might be a little too far out from the radar to get decent velocity returns. Probably down here around Oak Hill, where you see the lighter blue and is surrounded by the green. Would be my guess. We can look at debris detection here too. Not seeing a strong signal on that at this point. So anyway, that's what's happening out just to our west. Not a threat to the tri-state. High pressure will then kind of ease off into the Atlantic Ocean, and that will allow the cold front then to pass through the region tomorrow. Right behind it, though, our winds will kick around to the south. We warm it up again into the upper 80s on Friday, and then cold front number 2 comes down the pike. That one has a little more to work with. We will have more moisture in the atmosphere, but it will be early in the day, so it won't be we won't be at maximum heating. So that may mitigate our severe weather risk on Saturday morning. That then will shift on out. And behind that, we have then the rain through the morning into the early afternoon and then clearing up again. I think this is a repeat there. I showed this earlier. I always like to kind of front load any active weather here on the weather show in case you have to, go someplace else or make a snack. Total rainfall through Sunday only coming up with about 0.8 of an inch of rain. And the European also in cahoots here with early morning rain Saturday, followed up by a clearing spell and then cooler temperatures early next week. And the European also advertising some midweek rain next week. The rain potential on the European a little bit less than what you saw in the GFS. I think if we do manage to get some thunderstorms, we could see little pockets of heavier rainfall. But overall, we're still looking at not a whole lot of rain with both of those systems. 80 for the high tomorrow, and we already talked about our storm chances there on Saturday. Then it quiets down until the middle of next week. Our temperatures are going to remain much warmer than normal through the end of the month, and hopefully we will pick up and recoup some of that rain that we haven't had so far. The only caption I have on tonight's pet pick is Lily. I don't know who Lily belongs to, but anyway, a sweet cat there, so we'll let Lily watch the proceedings, and I'm going to check your questions here if I can find them. What a day today, though. It's beautiful out there. All right. Got a few questions, not very many. Let's see here. Adam Luigs, how much accumulation are we talking Saturday morning? We're going to do some racing. Oh, man. Well, yeah, I don't think you're going to get mudded out up at Tri-State Speedway. Hope not. I would think, dirt track like that, it could absorb quite a bit of water. But the rain should be out of here by Saturday night, so you could be able to race. Cheyenne Hammonds, good evening. Do I need to sleep with the weather radio on tonight? No. Laura Gray, watching from Dawson Springs. Well, we appreciate it. You're a regular watcher here. We like that. Don Hoke would welcome any rain. We're working on that. We're going to get a little tomorrow, hopefully on your garden, Don. And Jeff Miller is hoping for rain. The garden is all planted. You are industrial. I thought you were retired. You're supposed to make that stretch. Well, of course, I guess you got to get your seeds in if you want to eat, right? So anyway, hopefully you haven't been working too hard. We had a question here last night about windy days, and I talked a little bit about Turner, I think was the gentleman's name, had asked if it seems like we have more windy days now than in the past. And I talked about how that's kind of a difficult proposition to figure out. That anecdotally, the stuff that we kind of remember and know, you think, well, yeah, it has been pretty windy recently, and maybe more so than in the past, but it's really hard to say. And I mentioned that you need numbers, right, empirical data to really, do the science. So today, Art and Gregory and I had this discussion, and we both agree that it has seemed windier, right, around the tri-state in the last few years. And so we got to digging a little bit and have found enough data to only go back about 5 years. So I'm crunching those numbers right now, and I don't have anything for you tonight. But one thing I'm going to throw out there, and this is kind of our sticking point, to do numbers and try to figure out what constitutes a windy day. Now, that seems like a dumb question, doesn't it? Well, if, your hair's blown around or trees are falling down or whatever. But we need a number. And, so is a windy day one where you have like average wind over the course of the day at 20, 15, 30, what is it? And then is the criterion for a windy day any day where a gust is over, let's say 20 or something like that. And so we've been kind of in the weeds on trying to come up with the definition for a windy day because it's subjective, right? Your windy day may pale by my windy day. But I think we can all agree that we notice the wind. So we're trying to kind of come up with a number. So put your thinking caps on, and if you have any criterion you want us to apply, that would help. In looking at the numbers, the data that we have to go by is the Weather Service each day at Paducah, but they have an observation here at the Evansville Regional Airport. So it records the peak wind gust, it records the peak 3-minute wind, or sustained wind, I should say, and then it records the average wind, which would be, I guess, each minute or 3-minute period across the day averaged out by that number of periods, and you get a number. And one thing we noticed was that there's kind of a cutoff. So usually around a day that would have, let's say, a 12-mile-an-hour average wind, oftentimes that day contained a gust of 30 or more, which was kind of interesting. And if you think about it, you get that random thunderstorm or something, that could throw the whole thing off, right? You get a 60-mile-an-hour gust at the airport, but nothing down here. And the value of an averaged wind for the day, of course, is it kind of smooths all that out. It would dampen out the outlier, right? The high winds and the time when it's calm. So anyway, this rambling sermon is just to say we're still trying to figure out the criterion, and we will say what it is, but your feedback would help. So, think about that a little bit on what, you think of as, wow, it's windy today. Not just a breeze, but windy. Do we have to have tree damage? Do we have to have, something, some number that goes in there? That's the kind of stuff we worry about. See? That's why I got gray hair coming in on the side, because it's never quite so simple to really figure a question out. And it's a great question, and it's one that I'm curious about too. So more on that as we get our act together on there. One little thing I wanted to talk about in Science Corner tonight is elevated pollen counts. Of course, if you have allergies, we've got a lot of pollen blowing around, as we always do here in the spring. One thing that's made it a little worse this year is it's been very dry. And so the trees popped out when we had the rain, and now we're looking at a lot of pollen and dust and some smoke in the atmosphere. So if your allergies are bothering you, that's what's going on. But another interesting way to look at it too, and I had mentioned yesterday about, perhaps climate change has some role in windier days. So it's hard to make the one-to-one correlation. But with allergy days, it's kind of an inferred relationship here where you have warmer days which make the growing season longer, and consequently you have pollen, right? A little more than you did back, let's say, in 1970. And we actually have a database that looks at things like this, and the output showed that we've added about 13 growing days. These would be days where the temperature doesn't go below freezing, added on since 1970. So that means stuff dies off later, it comes up earlier, and you sneeze more if you have allergies. And this is probably related to warmer temperatures out there overall and an extended period. We also have more power plants, and we're burning more carbon or fossil fuels, which put particulates into the air, which are also allergens. And we mentioned the increased temperature extending the growing season, and some other things. Now, one thing I will say is that since 1970, after the EPA was created and clean air regulations and so forth, power plants, cars do not emit as much pollution as they used to. Rivers are cleaner as a result. So, some of the factors that we would have had in 1970 are not as big a deal today. So again, something to think about, but in short, it's why you're sneezing more and longer, because we have a longer growing season. All right. Okay. Oh, good. Now we got some numbers. I knew if I filibustered a little bit, we'd have some numbers come in. Amanda Smith, a normal day is light and variable, 10 plus sustained in my opinion. Okay, that's fair. William Raleigh says 15 to 20 is a good start. And I think you're talking average wind, right? Or if you had wind of 15 to 20 during a day. That's good. Okay. So our numbers are pretty close, because in my mind I was thinking 15 to 20 maybe. At 15, the main impact would be like the flags would stick straight out. Like if you have an American flag or whatever on a mast, it will stick straight out. And that's a pretty stiff wind. So I think 15 holds water. We'll work on that, okay? Now, hopefully I'll have some numbers for you. It might be next week. As Michael is out this week, we would have fobbed it off on him, but we're going to have to do the heavy lifting, so it might take a little longer. Anyway, I appreciate your input, and I'm glad you watched the 14First Alert Weather Show here at 9. I will be over on TV on 14 News at 10. We'll be looking at that rain potential for tomorrow morning. In the meantime, stay safe. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.